Welcome back to my dining room / Corvair Parts Memorial. Today we're going to work on baselining. This is the bit where you figure out all the stuff that's wrong with the car so that when you're putting it back together, everything that's wrong is therefore your fuck up. The first thing I wanted to diagnose was an engine misfire, and this was a consistent misfire, so it's happening one of two ways, at least on a carbureted engine. That's going to be spark or compression.
This is too much pressure.
I decided to check compression first because this engine's going to go to a customer, and that customer is going to want a healthy engine. Spark is something probably anybody can deal with, but compression's a little bit deeper problem. Now, I'm not a first-gen Mustang expert, but on an engine like this, you should see somewhere between 125 and 135 PSI. Here you can hear the starter's a little bit tired, and it's making 125 PSI anyway, so that's fine. I checked all 8 cylinders, and they were all pretty similar. Compression is not the cause of our consistent misfire. Let's look at spark.
Like trying to light a fire with a wet match. You won't even get a spark like that.
One of the easiest ways to check spark
Your love is like trying to light a fire with a wet match. You won't even get a spark like that. Your love is like trying to light a fire with a wet match.
One of the easiest ways to check spark all the way around is just to start pulling plug wires. Probably the best way to do this is with a spark plug puller that's insulated so you don't get shocked, but I couldn't find mine. I'm sure I used to have one, and I didn't feel like going to the store, but there's definitely one at the store right down the street from me, and I just decided to get shocked instead. Yeah. No change. It didn't matter if I changed the cap, changed the rotor, changed plug wires, changed spark plugs, nothing made any difference. Those 4 plugs had weak spark no matter what I did. To me, this tells me that the distributor shaft bearings are a bit worn out, and you're opening the breaker points a little bit better when the rotor is in certain positions than in others. This is something I'm just going to communicate to the person who buys the engine. I'm not going to go through and fix this.
Like that. Your love is like trying to light a fire with a wet match. You won't even get a spark like that.
With the consistent misfire issue diagnosed, I still had what felt like a vacuum issue.
Damn it, that sucks.
So I figured maybe a broken hose somewhere, could be a worn out gasket, something like that. One of the easiest ways and kind of most combustible ways to find this is to use starter fluid. So that's what I did. I had my fire extinguisher nearby. I didn't really document any of this process, so I'm going to leave it to somebody else. Now, I don't know this cowboy, but he's kind of doing the same sort of thing that I would have done. Check it out.
Starter fluid is basically a Velociraptor on PCP. It's right in there. That little port in the intake manifold. Had a little homemade plug on it. Believe it or not my work, but I have done it.
So unlike our cowboy friend, I didn't find a bad vacuum cap. I found a torn carburetor base gasket. So I pulled it out, took it down to the local auto parts store, the one where I should have bought the spark plug wire puller from, that auto parts store. And I matched up that gasket, got one just like it, put it in there, fired it up, still ran like shit. So then I figured, well, maybe the bottom of the carburetor's a little bit damaged. Maybe it's got a whole bunch of pits in it, something like that. Pits, yeah. So I slathered up a very thin film of RTV on the underside of the carburetor and both sides of the gasket and put it all back together, and it still ran bad. So now I'm a little bit stumped, but let's take a closer look. I pulled the carburetor off, matched up the gasket to the other side of the carburetor, and it's the wrong gasket. So not only was the gasket torn, but it was also the wrong gasket. I don't know exactly who put this thing together, but that's a big swing and a miss to screw up both of those things in one go. Took the carburetor back to the auto parts store. Remember the one where I got the wrong gasket and the one where I didn't go to get the spark plug wire puller? That one. And we just matched it up per the application. 289 V8 on a 1966 Ford Mustang. Exactly the right gasket. Obviously, that's the thing that I should have done in the first place. That's what a smart person would have done. Yep. Brought it on back, put it under the carburetor, bolted it all down, ran much, much better. Got rid of that vacuum leak. One problem solved. After all this ignition checking and compression testing and vacuum leak checking, I noticed there was a wet spot on the passenger side floorboard. This usually means you've got a leaky heater core, but when I fired the engine up again, no leaky heater core. Doesn't matter how long I let it warm up. So I figure rev the engine, right? Because what is it about engines that makes you have to rev them? Okay, so there it is, leaky heater core. Once again, I'm not going to fix this, and I'm not selling it to anybody else, but I know it's there. So when we get to the point where we're putting this car back together, when we're putting together cooling loops and a passenger compartment heating loop, why not? That might be nice. We're going to know that that heater core is bad. We can either change it, or if we're doing any kind of redesign under the dash there, we can make decisions at that time.
This 1966 Ford Mustang has a bad habit of draining the battery overnight. Charge the battery all the way up, shut the car off, let it sit overnight, come out the next morning, and the battery has usually about 3 volts left. It appears to be pulling 1 amp to 1.2 amps all the time, and I'm not sure why, but I did recently find a lot of tinfoil in the fuse box, and so I figured that's a good place to start. Maybe all that tinfoil has something to do with the amp draw. Does it? Nope. That is indeed a lot of tinfoil, but after removing all of it, the car is still pulling 1 amp. So that's not it. On to the starter solenoid.
I did go ahead and track the amp draw problem down to the starter solenoid. Tracking down electrical issues a lot of the time is just a matter of isolating which circuit it is that's causing the problem. If you're blowing a fuse, if you're seeing amp draw, start disconnecting circuits after the problem one by one. And when the problem goes away, you know which circuit the problem was on, and you can narrow it down to one particular device, typically on that circuit, or you can narrow it down to a spot where the wire has been rubbing on the frame rail of the car or something like that. The next thing I did was go through and replace all of those fuses that had tinfoil wrapped around them. I don't know why tinfoil got wrapped around those fuses. Every fuse that I put back in was the correct amperage, and none of them blew, so everything was fine. I think over the years, or at least with one particular owner, every time they blew a fuse for whatever reason, I have no idea why those fuses blew. Maybe they just finally blew from age and vibration. The car's 60 years old. They didn't feel like going and buying a fuse, and so they just wrapped it in tinfoil.
Observing grown-ups who smoke, I observed that all the leading cigarettes are protected by aluminum foil. Zip! Look at that shiny aluminum foil. Reynolds wrap, aluminum packaging.
And it worked. It did not cause a single problem. I may use the fuse box, so it was good to make sure that all those fuses were actually going to work in there, and that the wiring was good and the devices were good. So we'll see how much of the dash I use. We'll see how much of the headlights, turn signals, whatever else. At least we know that stuff's good. So we diagnosed that we have good compression. We have an ignition issue, probably because of a worn out distributor shaft bearing. I'm not going to fix that. We found a vacuum leak, and after going through a couple of different gaskets, we got that resolved as well. We found a leaky heater core. We're just going to go ahead and be aware of that during the build. We figured out that our fuse box and all of our fuses and underdash wiring, low voltage wiring, that's all good. We determined that the starter solenoid is bad. We're not going to replace it. We're not going to use it. It goes in the trash. So since we got all that figured out, I'm going to use my conscripted test driver. Dad, take it away.
It's not a car that she's ever driven before.
She's driven it twice, but only around the block, basically. Same with me. We've all just driven it around the block. It only goes for drives around the block until the teardown. It's got old tires on it, and it really hasn't been driven much in a while, so.
You're going to sell the old drivetrain out of it then?
Yeah, I've got it sold already.
I do.
Yeah.
The person already listened to it?
Yep. Yeah, he's given me $1,700 for the motor, the transmission, and the radiator.
And just like that, Dad's happy with the results. Thanks, Dad. Remember, everyone, if you like the video, like and subscribe. If you don't like the video, like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.